everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm Shayna Dilla and today we will be doing something a little bit different. Typically on my channel we do cosplay work vlogs and like the becoming X character for, specific characters. They're like specific tips for certain characters. But rarely on my channel do we have more general tips for cosplay. And I wanted to change that. So going back to basics in the beginning, today we will be doing a how to start cosplaying tips and tricks guide. Long name. Of course there aren't any like official rules to cosplay. I guess maybe have fun. That's like the #1 golden rule, and I'll probably say that a lot throughout this video. But if you're looking to take that jump into the cosplay world and you haven't done so yet, here are some tips and tricks that can help you do so. Tip number 1, ask yourself, what are your cosplay goals? What do you want to get out of cosplay? And this could be anything from, I want to meet new friends, I want to look badass at a convention, I want to just contribute to the fandom that I love, or I want to learn a new skill such as sewing. For myself, when I started cosplaying, it was like all of those reasons really. I was not good at sewing. I had always seen other people doing cosplay at conventions before and like had always been like, oh my god, they look so cool, they look so badass, I want to be like that too. And I want to meet other people who are interested in the same thing as me. I mean, cosplay is a great conversation starter and a great way to find other people who are passionate about the same things as you. But whatever your reason, choose 1, choose 100, choose some goals. And the reason why I like choosing cosplay goals is because it can be a motivating factor when you're in a slump and you don't maybe want to work on your costume. You can look back and think, why am I cosplaying? But then you can look back and think on that goal and be like, oh yeah, I really want to look so badass at this convention, or I really can't let my group cosplay friends down, or I really love this fandom at the end of the day. I really want to dress as this character and emulate this character. But whatever your reasons are, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't be like, I want to be a master prop maker in the first costume. Don't do that. Just take it easy and have fun with it. Tip number 2, pick a character and choose a deadline. I'll have another video on tips and tricks on how to choose a character, but things you'll want to consider are your budget, how much time you can dedicate to the costume, what your cosplay goal is, and just what fandoms do you like. That's my go-to. I typically choose fandoms that I really love, or choose a character from the last anime that I watched. For my first costume, I chose Teemo from League of Legends. And the reason why I chose him was because his costume design is pretty simple, and I love/hate Teemo. Everyone in the League of Legends community loves and hates Teemo. He's Satan. Because that was my first costume, it was pretty simple to put together because I had no skill levels as far as sewing goes, but I was able to pick up, closet cosplay items, t-shirt, shorts, red scarf, easy. Throw them together, get the official League of Legends hat, which I already had on hand, and I was good to go. Choosing a deadline will just help motivate you to finish a cosplay by a certain date. You can always choose a character, but if you don't have a deadline for when you want to complete that character's costume, it could sit in limbo forever. Ideas for cosplay deadlines don't necessarily have to be a convention date. Typically it is, such as finishing a costume for KatsuCon or SakuraCon, but it could also be a party, such as a Halloween party or a get-together with friends, or maybe you just want to book a photographer and choose a photo shoot date. But whatever deadline you choose, do your best to stick to it, and choose a character that you can actually realistically complete by that deadline. Step number 3, create a plan and construct. Again, I'll create another video that will help with conducting cosplay research and help you get through that cosplay planning process. But in a nutshell, the cosplay process is the following. 1, keep your deadline in mind. 2, break down your costume into different elements such as t-shirt, hat, boots, shoes, and then working backwards from that due date, figure out what small due dates you want those little elements to be completed by. So hopefully when you reach that convention date or that photo shoot date or that party date, all your elements of your costume are done. Sounds simple, but it's really important to think about that timeline in order to help prevent any stress. And this applies to any amount of timeline, whether you have 2 weeks to a year. Some tips as far as construction goes: don't think you need to make every bit of your costume. I know there are the great cosplayers out there that do that. For myself, I'm a big fan of buying costumes. I'm also a big fan of buying pre-made items and altering them to look more accurate to the, cosplay reference. An example that I give all the time is for my Siryu Ubiquitous costume. So for that character, she has a military green coat. And I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again, sewing is not my strong suit. So what I did is I took an existing green coat that I had on hand that was very accurate to the shade of her coat, and I altered it. I cut the sleeves off, I swapped out the buttons, I made the length a bit shorter, and it looked great. And it saved me a lot of time, and it saved me some money too, especially if you consider how many labor hours I would have put into that, not having necessarily developed that sewing skill level. And then there's the side where maybe you're not interested in constructing your costume, and that's totally cool. Perhaps you're interested in the performance aspect of it, or maybe you just like dressing up, which I certainly love doing that too. If that's the case, go ahead and feel free to buy your costume. There are a lot of different sellers out there, from Etsy sellers to eBay sellers, though whichever seller you do choose, please do your research. Look for reviews on different sellers, especially those on eBay. Rule of thumb for myself that I always follow: if the seller is below 99.8% and there isn't a healthy amount of reviews, I don't buy from that seller on eBay. Other things that you'll want to do if you're buying your costume is take your measurements. Take your height, your width, your shoulder width measurements, your waist, all those standard measurements, and I keep them on a file on my computer, as well as a copy of my measurements on my phone, just so if I'm shopping around and I'm curious about if this costume will fit on me, then I'll have those measurements on hand. But yes, if you're looking to buy your costume, just make sure you know your body measurements, you look at reviews, you look at the size chart, and give yourself plenty of time for that costume to ship to you. Many costumes on eBay, they ship from Asia, and they can take anywhere from a week, which is pretty good, to 2 weeks, which is also pretty good, to like months. So just plan in advance. The final step number 4, debut your costume. This might sound like a simple step, but if you're anyone like me, I can get pretty nervous when I'm debuting a new costume. Things I help do to combat that nervousness is, first, I like to do a test fit of my costume. I'll either do this the day before, I'll do it a week before, just whenever that costume is finished. This allows me time to see what elements might need some last minute adjusting, but it gives me peace of mind having test fit it, knowing that, okay, yeah, this is what the elements look like, and seeing it all together gets me actually really pumped and excited. Another thing is just be confident, have fun with it. If things aren't perfect, that's fine. Things are never perfect with my costumes. Again, referring to that Siryu Ubiquitous costume, I had auto mail hands, and they looked pretty cool in photos, but they were really uncomfortable to actually maneuver in. I couldn't grab things, I couldn't use my smartphone. So after I took photos of that costume, those auto mail hands were off, and people still wanted to take pictures of me, and they didn't care that I didn't have auto mail hands on because they loved that character. Another thing you'll want to do when you're debuting your costume is try to take photos. It doesn't have to be a professional photo shoot. Just take selfies, take lots of selfies. Have your friend take a photo of you on your smartphone. Just document that day, document that momentous moment when you rocked your first costume, and it will be really fun to look back on in the future to see how far you've come and how far you've improved by having those photos with you. For my Teemo costume, I can only find one photo of it, and I wish I took more, but I'm glad I do have at least that one photo that I can look back on and then compare it to what I've done now and be proud of like all the things that I've achieved. So those are my cosplay tips and tricks for how to start cosplaying. I hope you found them useful. If you've cosplayed before and you have some tips you'd like to leave our future cosplayers of the world, please leave them in the comments below. Okay, well, until next time, guys, I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you next time.